For decades, historians have struggled to lay hold on thousands and thousands of ancient materials written in mysterious languages. They knew where they were from, but could never figure out the secrets behind all those signs and symbols. But what if we told you all that the game has changed? AI has revealed dozens of secrets with unbelievable accuracy, and it may be a lot to take in. The Ein-Gedi Scroll. The Ein-Gedi Scroll is an ancient Hebrew parchment found in 1970 at Ein-Gedi, Israel, and for decades, this ancient artifact has fascinated as well as confused historians and scholars. This ancient piece of writing was made from animal skin parchment, and it dates back approximately to 1,500 years. During that time, it was kept securely inside the Holy Ark of a synagogue located on the western shore of the Dead Sea. However, tragedy struck the community when a fire swept through the town. Unfortunately, the fire consumed much of what was there, but despite the destruction, the Holy Ark managed to survive alongside its content, including the scroll. However, the heat of the fire had a serious impact on the scroll itself and caused it to harden into a fragile charcoal-like tube. And so, for a long time, it was impossible to unroll or read the scroll without destroying it. Now, this posed a big problem. How could they possibly examine or read the text in the scroll without causing irreparable damage? After months and months of trying to figure out a solution, in 2015, a dedicated team of scientists finally found a way to solve the mystery of the Ein-Gedi Scroll without causing any damage to its fragile structure. With a combination of advanced CT scans and specially designed computer software, they were able to create a detailed virtual copy of the scroll. By 2016, all their hard work paid off, and the team was ready to share their exciting findings with the world. After carefully analyzing the digital version of the scroll, they discovered that it was an historical treasure. The scroll was estimated to be between 1,700 and 1,800 years old. And its content was even more remarkable. In it was the first 2 chapters of the Book of Leviticus in its raw Hebrew text, and this was one of the earliest copies of the Torah ever found. And if there's anything more interesting than the Ein-Gedi Scrolls, it's the Herculaneum Scrolls. The Herculaneum Scrolls. Historians were blown away when they found the Herculaneum Scrolls. Until today, they remain one of the most incredible and mysterious discoveries from ancient history. These scrolls were found in the ruins of Herculaneum, which was an ancient Roman town near Pompeii, which was destroyed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. The city of Herculaneum itself was completely buried by mud and volcanic material during the eruption, and it wasn't until centuries later that these scrolls were discovered. In 1750, archaeologists mysteriously found them inside a luxurious villa that was believed to have belonged to the father-in-law of Julius Caesar. They had been carbonized by the heat of the eruption, which turned them into fragile, charred remnants, but they somehow retained their form. And despite the severity of the effects of the volcano, historians were shocked to find that unlike many other libraries from ancient times that had decomposed or destroyed due to exposure to air and the elements, the scrolls had somehow survived. Now, artificial intelligence holds the key to unlocking the mysteries of the Herculaneum Scrolls, and researchers can access and read passages that have remained undeciphered for nearly 2,000 years. The research to unlock the scrolls was led by Professor Brent Seals from the University of Kentucky, who has been at the forefront of using AI to study and preserve ancient texts. He and his gifted team of experts were focused on developing AI models capable of reading the scrolls without damaging them. Fortunately, the project attracted attention and funding, including a mouth-watering cash prize offered by Silicon Valley investors who are eager to see this technology make breakthroughs in ancient history and archaeology. And how exactly would they pull this off? The process involves training AI algorithms to analyze the images of the scrolls, which have been scanned using advanced imaging techniques. These AI models would then detect certain patterns, recognize symbols, and make connections between characters that may have been previously impossible to identify by human researchers alone. And quite a number of computer science students have made progress in their efforts to read and interpret the Herculaneum Scrolls. They used a system called computer tomography, a method similar to X-ray scans, along with artificial intelligence, and these students were able to analyze the marks on the ancient papyrus scrolls. In one remarkable breakthrough, though, a computer science student was able to decode the first word from one of the scrolls, and the word was purple. It may seem like nothing, but for the research community, this was a really big deal. The experts were astounded, and for this accomplishment, the student was awarded a $40,000 prize. And since the discovery, the word has actually sparked more questions than answers. Does the word purple mean royalty, wealth, or even mockery? What will the full context reveal once the rest of the scroll is deciphered? One possibility is that the word purple might be referencing a scene from the Bible. In the Gospel of Mark, for example, there is a passage that describes how Jesus was mocked by being clothed in a purple robe before his crucifixion. Maybe the scroll has something to do with the Bible. Purple, in ancient times, was also a color associated with kings and emperors, symbolizing great power and wealth. So maybe it was a royal artifact. This discovery just keeps getting more mysterious, but in the words of one of the researchers, it is certain that more will be revealed. This next language, however, troubled researchers for decades. Linear B. Jiaming Luo spent his childhood in mainland China, where he often found himself thinking about forgotten and lost languages. From a young age, he had developed a curiosity about the way people communicated and the whole idea of language. One of the questions he often pondered was why the different languages spoken by his parents were often grouped together and referred to as Chinese dialects. It was confusing to him because in reality the languages were quite distinct from one another, with unique sounds, structures, and histories. And so in 2015, Jiaming Luo began his journey as a computer science doctoral student at the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It was during this time that he met his advisor, who also had a deep interest in ancient languages. Before he knew it, their passions overlapped, and Luo began to dive into the study of these ancient forgotten languages. To him, they weren't mere puzzles. He thought of them as beautiful mysteries, and that's what attracted him to them. In 2019, however, Jiaming Luo's love for ancient languages paid off when he, alongside a team of researchers from MIT, achieved a breakthrough in the use of technology to decipher ancient scripts. Luo brought his knowledge of machine learning to this project, and together, he and his team developed an algorithm designed to analyze and decode lost languages. Luo and his colleagues decided to test their newly developed model on two ancient scripts that had already been deciphered. The first script they chose was Ugaritic, an ancient language closely related to Hebrew. The second was Linear B, a script discovered in the ruins of the Bronze Age on the Greek island of Crete. Linear B, in particular, has a fascinating history. It is one of the earliest examples of written Greek that has baffled scholars for decades. In fact, it took professional epigraphists and researchers nearly 60 years of intense effort to fully decode its meaning. But if the meanings of scripts had already been discovered, then why were Lu and his team using AI on them again? It was simply to test the capabilities of their machine learning model and determine whether it could replicate the results of decades of human effort, and do it in a shorter amount of time. When the results eventually came out, the accuracy was remarkable. The algorithm successfully translated 67.3% of Linear B's words into their modern-day Greek equivalents, which is actually quite impressive. When the model had been built and properly calibrated, it only took between 2 and 3 hours to run the full process, compared to traditional methods of decipherment, which could take days, weeks, months, or even years of meticulous effort. No doubt Lu achieved a great feat, but what do we call a language that uses plants and animals as symbols? The Nazca lines. Ever heard of the Nazca lines? They are actually called geoglyphs, and they stretch across the Nazca Plateau in Peru, dating all the way back to 500 BC and 500 AD. They depict animals, plants, and even strange humanoid figures, including one often described as an astronaut. The lines were first discovered in 1927, but no one really knew for certain why they were created or what their true purpose was. Some people, especially conspiracy theorists, believed that the Nazca lines might have been made by aliens, and that's because the sheer size and precision of the designs suggest involvement from an advanced civilization, possibly from another world. According to these theories, the lines could have been landing strips for spacecraft or messages intended for extraterrestrial beings. However, scientists have more realistic explanations. Many researchers suggest that the lines were most likely used as pathways for ceremonial processions. These signs and symbols may have actually been a way for the Nazca people to honor their gods. Some even say that the geoglyphs might have been designed so that they could be seen from above and allow the gods to look down and observe them from the heavens. Well, all the guessing is over. Artificial intelligence is now making it easier to uncover these mysterious lines. By using a type of AI called deep learning, researchers at Yamagata University in Japan have found a way to analyze the Nazca lines. Deep learning is a system that allows computers to analyze large amounts of data, such as satellite images and photographs of the landscape, and quickly identify patterns that resemble geoglyphs. As a matter of fact, researchers are working quickly because the Nazca lines are under threat. Natural erosion and the impacts of climate change are slowly damaging these ancient geoglyphs, and if they're not discovered and preserved on time, they could be lost forever. This means it's crucial for them to find and preserve as many of these designs as they can to ensure they are studied and preserved for future generations. Speaking of studying and preserving things, whoever wrote this next manuscript knew exactly how to keep its message concealed. Voynich. The Voynich manuscript is considered one of the world's most confusing mysteries, and it has captured the curiosity of historians, linguists, cryptographers, and scholars for decades. For years, its origins, language, and meaning were unsolved and baffled anyone who ever tried to crack its code. Surprisingly, however, it appears that the secret behind this mysterious book may have just been uncovered, not by the brilliant human minds who have tried for decades, but by the advancements of artificial intelligence. This 240-page manuscript was first brought into the spotlight when Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer, purchased it in 1912. Since then, it has fascinated researchers around the world, particularly because the entire manuscript is written in a completely unknown language. Some people have even suggested that it could have been written by aliens, given how strange the text is. Others believe it could be a hoax, with no real meaning at all, just a clever trick. The manuscript is now kept at Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library in New Haven, Connecticut, where it is carefully stored and protected. The pages of the manuscript are actually made from delicate vellum, and they are filled with odd illustrations. These include detailed drawings of plants that don't match species known to humans, unusual diagrams about the stars and the sky, and strange pictures of naked women. Going by the illustrations alone, scholars believe the book is organized into 6 sections, organized by themes which are botany, astronomy, biology, cosmology, medicine, and cooking. Some believe the book contains science, while others contend that it's sorcery, or perhaps a mix of both. But thanks to AI technology, scientists at the University of Alberta say they have finally cracked the code of the famous Voynich manuscript. Professor Greg Kondrak and graduate student Bradley Hauer used their knowledge of natural language processing, which is a type of computer science that helps machines understand and work with human language. They ran computer programs that compared the text in the manuscript to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a well-known document that has been translated into 380 different languages. After running these comparisons, the computer found that the text in the Voynich manuscript is most likely written in Hebrew, and it was eventually discovered that more than 80% of the words in the Voynich manuscript were actually found in a Hebrew dictionary. However, just because most of the words appeared in the dictionary, they didn't make sense when put together in sentences. Despite such a promising start, they still weren't sure of the manuscript's true meaning. In an effort to make more progress, they brought in their colleague, Moshe Koppel, a computer scientist who was fluent in Hebrew. Koppel attempted to read the first line of the manuscript, but he couldn't make sense of it either. However, with a couple of small spelling corrections, they decided to try using Google Translate to assist in deciphering the text. Thanks to these spelling fixes, Google Translate had much better luck, and it was able to make more sense of the manuscript's text, showing that the words could actually form readable sentences. If the team from the University of Alberta is correct, they believe the first sentence of the Voynich manuscript can be translated as, "She made recommendations to the priest, man of the house and me and people." It's definitely an odd sentence, but it's a step forward from having no idea of what it really is. Remember the language Linear B from earlier? Well, there's Linear A too, Linear A. This mysterious language was discovered on tablets in Crete in 1900, and despite years of research, no one was able to figure out what it means. This script is believed to have been the main writing system used by the Minoan civilization, an ancient Bronze Age society that was ruled by King Minos. There are actually over 1,400 tablets that contain text written in Linear A, and they date back as far as 1800 BC. And despite many attempts by scholars and researchers, for decades, no one was able to make meaning of the symbols on these tablets. However, a breakthrough in understanding Linear A came when researchers made an important discovery. And for the record, this was the very first time AI was successfully used for this purpose, so it was a groundbreaking achievement. After careful study and analysis, they realized that some of the repeated words in the language were actually names of places on the island of Crete. This was a key observation because it gave researchers a way to start figuring out the meaning of some of the words. They also found that even Linear B could somehow be related to ancient Greek. Today, a researcher named Arthur Evans is still using artificial intelligence to automatically translate the remaining thousands of texts written in Linear B to see if they match with Linear A. The language found in this next scroll was almost as dead as where it was discovered. The Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls are as fascinating as they sound, and they are one of the most important archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. These ancient texts were first uncovered in 1947 in caves near Qumran, an ancient Jewish settlement located near the Dead Sea. What started as a single discovery grew into a larger treasure trove, and over the years, hundreds more scrolls and fragments have been found hidden in the same area, where they were carefully stored about 2,000 years ago. These scrolls were usually written on papyrus, parchment, and sometimes animal skins. These ancient documents were actually not discovered as complete texts. Instead, they were found in thousands of small, fragile fragments. So for decades, researchers have painstakingly pieced these fragments together like a big puzzle just to figure out what they say, where they came from, and how old they are. Among those texts, scholars have found some of the oldest known versions of biblical writings, and they have helped researchers link them to ancient Judaism and early religious traditions. Now, the question of who actually wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls is still a topic of debate among experts. Although there is no definitive answer, some scholars believe that they were written by a group of people living in the Judean desert between the 2nd century BC and the 2nd century AD. Some say that the texts may have been created by a Jewish sect, such as the Essenes, though other theories suggest different origins. However, AI has been quite responsive and has been the only helpful resource amongst tons of hypotheses. In 2020, a team of scientists from Israel, Sweden, and the United States conducted a study that completely beat other studies. They tested the ancient DNA from some of the parchment fragments, which were made from animal skins. Through this analysis, they were able to identify the specific animals used to create the parchments. This next writing, however, proved to be one of the most difficult in history, and it's none other than the cuneiform writing. But before we look into how AI has helped decipher these writings, cuneiform. You must have already heard about the cuneiform, but maybe not how it's been explored by AI in the last couple of years. It's one of the earliest forms of writing, and it was developed over 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. This ancient land, located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, is where modern-day Iraq now stands. For nearly 3,000 years, cuneiform writing has captured the everyday life, culture, and history of a civilization different from what we now know. They can reveal everything from heated letters exchanged between rival royal families to detailed instructions for calming a restless baby. The tablets also tell of the rise and fall of great empires like Akkad, Assyria, and Babylonia, some of the earliest and most powerful civilizations in human history. Archaeologists say they have discovered an estimated 500,000 cuneiform tablets so far, and many more are believed to still be buried beneath the earth, yet to be discovered and deciphered. Although scholars first cracked the code of cuneiform writing about 150 years ago, its secrets are known to only a small group of experts who can actually read this ancient script. Surprisingly, around 90% of all known cuneiform tablets remain untranslated, meaning that there's so much of the Mesopotamian culture that we still do not know. In fact, it's not just the tablets. There are over 50,000 engraved seals from Mesopotamia scattered across museums and private collections worldwide. Only about 10% of these seals have even been catalogued, and even fewer have been fully studied and translated, and this is because of the unbelievable amount of time it takes to interpret just one script. But all that has changed. Paget-Perron led an AI project to translate 69,000 ancient Mesopotamian administrative records from as far back as the 21st century BC. To achieve this, they trained algorithms to understand and translate these ancient texts. Then they used a sample of about 4,000 administrative records from a digitized database to teach the algorithms. They also went ahead to transliterate the original cuneiform symbols into our alphabet, making the machine translation possible. What was surprising, however, is that the ancient scripts themselves were written in straightforward Sumerian symbols, and it was incredible how easy it was to translate these ancient texts with AI. For instance, when a script was translated, its interpretation was 11 nanny goats for the kitchen on the 15th day. This kind of simple and structured wording allowed the algorithms to learn the patterns and rules of the language more easily. Once the algorithms were trained to translate the sample texts into English, they were able to automatically process and translate thousands of other transliterated tablets. This means that instead of having scholars painstakingly translate each text one by one, AI can do the work at a much faster pace. This next ancient material is one of the greatest man has ever known, even though it took centuries to figure it out. The Archimedes palimpsest. It's quite amazing how the Archimedes palimpsest has survived several centuries despite the many challenges. Let's throw it back a little. Our knowledge of Archimedes palimpsest stems from Archimedes, the Greek mathematician, who had 3 known manuscripts. One of these disappeared after being seen in 1311. Another was last documented in the 1550s before vanishing from the historical records. The third, known as the Archimedes palimpsest, is the only one that remains with us today. Now, in October 1998, the Archimedes palimpsest was auctioned at Christie's in New York and purchased by a private American collector. Shortly after, the collector entrusted it to the Walters Art Museum in Baltimore, which is widely known for collecting and preserving medieval manuscripts. From there, the manuscript became the focus of a major international effort that involved conservation, advanced imaging techniques, and detailed study. At the time of its sale, the manuscript was described as the most important scientific manuscript ever sold at auction. And today, it is regarded as the most important palimpsest in the world. However, it was unreadable for a really long while. In fact, on certain pages, the text is so faint that it can't be detected, and the parchment is too stained to reveal what's written. Since 2000, researchers from the Rochester Institute of Technology and the Johns Hopkins University have worked together to fully interpret the Archimedes palimpsest using advanced multispectral imaging technology. This technique is especially powerful for studying ancient documents because it uses multiple wavelengths of light to reveal faint or hidden text. Typically, a single wavelength of light is enough to uncover writings that are hard to see on old manuscripts. However, the Archimedes palimpsest is far more complex, and no single wavelength could capture all the hidden details. But by combining ultraviolet light with natural light, researchers managed to reveal around 80% of the obscured texts, leaving about 20% that has still not been deciphered. To make things even harder, someone in the 20th century painted over several pages of the manuscript with fake artwork to make it seem more valuable. This overpainting has completely covered parts of the original text, and multispectral imaging hasn't been able to see through it. Now, with the advent of AI, researchers decided to try other advanced techniques. One method that has shown the most success is called X-ray fluorescence, or XRF. This technique uses powerful X-rays to find tiny traces of ink, even if they're hidden under stains or layers of paint. Scientists are now using this process at the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center, a high-tech research facility to recover more of Archimedes' lost writing S, and they can't wait to find out what's inside. Next up is the interesting oracle, writing from China. Chinese oracle bones. Over a century ago, farmers working in fields near the Yellow River in eastern China began to discover ancient bone fragments. These discoveries quickly captured the attention of researchers, who were intrigued by the strange signs and symbols that were engraved on these bones. These oracle bones, as they are now known, were used thousands of years ago in rituals to predict the future. They hold the earliest examples of Chinese writing, and they are as old as 3,000 years. They are typically made from the shoulder blades of oxen or the flat belly shells of turtles, and during the Shang dynasty, a Bronze Age civilization, these bones were used in divination rituals. They were heated until they cracked, and the resulting crack patterns were interpreted as answers to important questions. These questions were either prayers, royal decisions, military strategies, weather predictions, or the success of harvests. However, studying these ancient artifacts have proven to be quite difficult. The bones are delicate and are often found in fragments, which makes them difficult to handle and piece together. Historians had tried traditional methods of studying the script, like ink rubbings, but they only produced blurry or incomplete results, leaving many inscriptions partially or entirely unreadable. Plus, oracle bone collections are scattered across museums and private collections, both in China and around the world, and so it was extremely difficult for researchers to access all the pieces they needed to form a complete picture. Despite over a century of study, scientists were only able to decipher about 1,000 of the 4,000 known characters found on the bones. In Beijing, however, researchers used artificial intelligence to speed up the painstaking task of analyzing oracle bone script. AI is helping them compare each character against thousands of others stored in databases, and the speed at which it is carrying out these tasks is unbelievable. In fact, 2 Chinese researchers spent around 8 to 9 months creating their AI model, and by November 2022, their hard work paid off with the launch of the Diviner project. In just 1 week, the AI-powered system analyzed an incredible 181,134 inscription rubbings spread across 100 different databases. And the results were truly impressive. The AI not only matched tens of thousands of duplicates that human researchers had already identified and proved its accuracy, but it also went a step further. It discovered over 300 new matching pairs of inscriptions that humans had missed in their analysis. Researchers still hope to find and match more pieces of these oracle bones to ensure that all the language characters have been fully discovered. While a good number of the languages written in these manuscripts, tablets, and scrolls have already been decoded, the complete meanings of the rest of them haven't been fully unlocked by AI. Right now, experts all around the world are still working to uncover more and more mysteries hidden in these ancient treasures, and it's thrilling to think about what we might discover next. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting content. Let us know in the comments what other ancient mystery you'd love for us to explore. Thanks for watching.